Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It's time for the match preview. Newcastle head to Sunderland in the FA Cup third round. That is a sentence I didn't think I'd be saying for quite a while, but it has come around. I'm joined by John Gibson and we're very excited, if not a wee bit nervous about Saturday. John, first things first, have you had a nice Christmas and a good New Year?
I've had a terrific one. Despite the results, I've managed to rise above that and enjoy myself as much as possible.
Yes, indeed. And it's John's birthday this week as well. So hopefully you have a good birthday, and that's rounded off nicely by a victory for Newcastle United. But John, I think it's fair to say that I don't want to speak for you, but I'll speak for myself. I'm a
Yeah.
little bit apprehensive about this fixture because of Newcastle's form. And I know in a derby game, form goes out the window, but Newcastle have been on such a bad run that I do wonder whether it's going to impact them. Just some your general feelings a few days before the derby. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. We've got every reason to be apprehensive. We would be apprehensive as well because a lot of things are against us. We've had a run of 7 defeats in 8. Um, we've gone out under Eddie Howe. We've gone out at the first hurdle of the FA Cup and the two competitions he's taken part in to lower opposition, lower league opposition, Cambridge United a couple of years back, Sheffield Wednesday last season. So it's all set up with a championship side this season and 7 defeats out the last 8. And our derby record, 9 derbies without a win, 3 draws, 6 defeats. Okay, we haven't met each other since March 2016, but that's still the record, 9 derbies without a win. So we're naturally going to be apprehensive. But, I prefer to try to be realistic about it. And before we played Liverpool, I expected us to get exactly what we got, which was not a little bit short of a good hiding, but for Dubrovka, it might have been a good hiding. But I certainly thought we would lose, and we did. But I also thought prior to Liverpool, this was the match to target. I don't mean give up Liverpool. I don't mean give up Man City, but they're tough. They're the bookends. This is the meat and the sandwich. And this is where we have a real chance of getting rid of that run of defeats and get a victory. And we ought to, for several reasons. We ought to because of our standing against Sunderland's standing. For goodness sake, this season Sunderland's been playing in the Championship and we've been playing in the Champions League. That tells you the gulf there is in the class. And, all right, we have and of course, fans, I believe, Andrew, the fans have a right to be apprehensive. 9 games without a win, but the team don't because the team are virtually newcomers. They're guys outside of Longstaff, who's a Geordie, etc., etc. These are new lads that aren't part of our recent derby history, and they should just look at the difference in the class gap between where we are in the Premier League and where Sunderland are in the Championship. And okay, this is away from home, and our record is shocking away from home this season, but that's our Premier League record. I would like them to remember the other competitions and remember that we went to Manchester United in the Carabao Cup and won 3-0. Remember, we went to Chelsea in the same competition and over 90 minutes drew 1-1. Remember, in the Champions League, we went to AC Milan and drew. We went to Paris Saint-Germain and drew. Now, you tell me if Sunderland are as good as those four teams. Are Sunderland as good as Manchester United, Chelsea, AC Milan and PSG? I would suggest not. And that being the case, there's no reason why we can't get a result on Saturday where we win or we draw and produce a replay, which then we win at St James's, and therefore Newcastle should go through. And that's the way we have got to approach it. We being the team representing us Geordies. We can be apprehensive because we've been used with a history of chaos and confusion, and we've got a derby history that's bad, but the players ought not. The players ought to remember those 4 games all away from home when we never lost against vastly superior opposition.
I don't think Sunderland's record at home is too clever either. So
No,
that's something that maybe Newcastle can get at. You mentioned there, John, Sean Longstaff, of course, there's Dan Burn, there's Lewis Miley, Elliot Anderson will be there and thereabouts. And obviously he's not going to be involved, but he'll obviously have
Paul
something to say.
Dummett, Paul Dummett.
Paul Dummett, Jamaal Lascelles was here the last time Newcastle played in this fixture back in 2016. So how important is it for those players, the Geordies particularly, but we'll include Jamaal Lascelles in it as well, to really relay the message back to those who have no idea what this fixture means to Newcastle United fans, who have never played it, who haven't grown up watching it from the terraces? How important is it?
I'm certain people like Longstaff and perhaps not Lewis Miley, because he's a young boy. Will he go in and wag his finger under the nose of the senior pros and say, lose this one at your peril? But I think the others will already have done that. But you know where it starts before that, Andrew? Can we make certain, and I'm certain it has happened, that Eddie Howe knows? Because the first thing he's got to do is put his best side out, mate. Put out the side he considers his very best side. I mean, we went to Manchester United in the Carabao Cup, I'm saying, and we won 3-0. But it was virtually reserves in the outfield 11, the outfield 10 of the 11, and really on a run of 7 defeats and 8 and playing a derby. I mean, Eddie Howe will get the message there. I mean, Eddie Howe, anybody that's been having a go at Eddie Howe has been ludicrous and ridiculous, because of his brought was so far in such a short space of time, and he'll get it right again before the season ends. But I tell you what's his worst nightmare, Andrew? Newcastle losing at Sunderland, because then there will be a section of fans that he'll lose because of that result, coming on top of 7 defeats out of 8. And the best way to guard against that is send your very, very best, what he considers his very, very best side out against Sunderland.
Surely there's no doubt about it. He'll be playing his strongest team.
I would hope so. But I mean, I remember only too well how shocked I was when I got the team sheet at Manchester United. It was wonderful later because we won 3-0. But if you remember that team, there were 10 outfield changes. There was only the keeper, which was Pope at the time, that was retained. Now, don't have any... he might have had a temptation to go down that route, because that's the route he went down with Sheffield Wednesday last season. And look at the result we got there. And I don't think Eddie would be daft enough to risk that this time, because you know why? Not just because it's a derby, but because of the run, Warren. If we've lost 7 out of 8, you can't afford to lose to a championship side, regardless of whether it's Sunderland or not. So I can't see him doing it. But Eddie, do yourself a favour, my son. Don't do it. Don't even think about it.
I suppose the big question is, what indeed is his strongest side because of the injuries? Dubravka, no doubt, will start in goal. I guess the big questions are, John, about the full-back area. So Kieran Trippier misses Liverpool. He's got a groin injury. Eddie Howe said he's unsure about the severity of it. Will there be a chance he's back in? Let's say he misses the game against Sunderland, just for this question. What do you do? Do you play Emil Kraft at right back and Livramento at left back, or do you play Livramento at right back and keep Dan Burn in the side?
Well, I know. Before I get onto that one, and I'm not ducking it because it's a terrific question, Andrew, can I say this? We look at it, a lot is being made now about Newcastle United, having 10 guys or more, 2 figures, 10, 11, 12, 13, guys unavailable, mainly because of injury, coupled because of suspension or whatever. But this huge backlog, and the minute we get somebody back, we say, oh, isn't it terrific? What a boost that is. I tell you what, watching us against Liverpool and watching us in the games before that, we have had big names back that I can't recognise. Botman is, because they've been rushed back, Botman is not playing like the Botman we know. Fabulous goal at Liverpool, great header. He was head and shoulders literally above anybody else to stick it in. But Botman's not playing like Botman can. And I thoroughly understand why. I'm not having a go. Burn is looking since he came back. I'm not a fan of him playing left back, but he is not looking anything like. Longstaff's a pale shadow. Gordon looks shattered and looks as if he hasn't got the legs, and his whole game's about legs. And if we go to other players that's currently out the side, Almiron's out the side because he's not doing anything. Wilson was out the side anyway, now injured, and Trippier has looked well beneath his form. So there we go. Botman, Byrne, Longstaff, Gordon, Almiron, Wilson, Trippier can all be on team sheets recently, and it doesn't mean a thing because it's not the Botman we know, it's not the Gordon we know. So the team sheet itself isn't going to be the answer to all the problems because they can go out there and be pale shadows of themselves. At fullback, we have got a problem because you know what? I thought the whole back four was poor individually and collectively at Liverpool. And you know, we didn't know that we'd say this, and it sounds ludicrous if somebody wasn't watching the game to say the man of the match let 4 goals in, and that was De Bruyne. But he was. It could have been 10 without Martin. It could have been 10. And I thought the 2 centre halves were pulled about and were off the pace. And I thought, you know, the fullbacks, I thought Livramento struggled. Byrne, I thought, was awful. But I thought Livramento didn't look the best because Diaz was a problem, and obviously Mo Salah was going to be a problem. So you can go right along that back four and say, what was there? And you can look into midfield, and is there anybody with discipline in midfield that can actually defend? I mean, is Bruno supposed to be playing as a 6? He hasn't got the discipline to play as a 6. And also, Andrew, he doesn't want to play as a 6, does he? When you watch the way he plays, he's itching to get forward. And when he gets forward, who drops in? Nobody. So the midfield, you could drive a bus through it. You could drive a bus through, which puts the back four under immense pressure because people are pouring under them. I mean, I'm always going to depress ourselves and haven't boosted us about how we can beat Sunderland through looking at those away results. When we now go into, you've asked me about them individually, and it's tough going, isn't it?
It is. But it's the realistic viewpoint of what is going on, and I don't think anybody will argue with your analysis of the midfield, of the defence, of Dan Burn, of the players you've mentioned who are severely out of form. I think you're absolutely spot on. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think at fullback, if it was me making the decisions, and this is always the key point, I would be playing Emil Kraft at right back and Tino Livramento at left back. I think what will actually happen is Tino Livramento at right back and Dan Burn at left back. If Kieran Trippier's fit, I think it'll be Trippier and Dan Burn at left back. Basically, what I'm saying is, I think if Eddie Howe's picking the side, which he will be, Dan Burn doesn't drop out of the side. And that's a little bit worrying. I don't want to scapegoat Dan Burn. I don't want to scapegoat anybody because it's a collective issue. The team collectively are below par. They're tired. They're fatigued. The fight's lacking a little bit. It's not just Dan Burn's fault. But if Dan Burn starts against Sunderland and he plays like he did against Forest and Liverpool, that could be the weak point. You got maybe Jack Clark targets him. I don't know which side they play on, but, you know, Dan Burn's going to have to step it up.
Likes the other side. He play against the right back. And he is a good player, by the way. But he is Sunderland's best player by miles and could play in the Premier League, Clark. So he is going to be a problem for somebody, whoever's up against him. But you know my thoughts about Dan Burn, bless him. And I always say bless him because he's my famous phrase that you always smile about. He's got the heart the size of a frying pan. And he has. And he's a Geordie and he cares like Billy O. But he's not a left back. For me, he's obviously a left back for Eddie because he plays him there enough and he's signed. I mean, he can play Trippier over there, he can play Livramento over there. He's signed Hall. He's got Dummett. He's knee deep in theory in people that can play left back, but Burns stays the number one choice. So he's a left back to the manager, and I bow to his knowledge. But he's not a left back to me. And I think he struggles there. He's better at centre half than at left back. I think he struggles there. And we could get done in the wide positions because I think Diaz and Saha done us well and truly at Anfield. Their 2 wide men tortured our fullbacks.
Yeah. I mean, Salah getting his 150th Premier League goal and getting another one. But I mean, the first goal, people will know I've already slated Dan Burn for what I saw as schoolboy defending, the way he ran over to the right side and left Salah in 8 as a space to do what Salah could have done with his eyes closed. And we can't see that on Saturday. It doesn't matter whether it's against Liverpool, against Sunderland, or whether it's against, Brighton in a pre-season friendly. You can't leave wingers, with that much time and space. But given it's a local derby, John, it is the derby. Given what we've said about the knowledge that the likes of Longstaff and Dan Burn will be passing on, do you play Dan Burn in the hope that it gives him a little bit more? He's playing in this dream fixture, which he never thought he'd get to play in.
I think Eddie Howe will play him like you think he will. I think Eddie Howe will almost certainly play Dan Burn on one side and probably Flamenco on the other, unless Trippier miraculously gets off his bed of nails. I wouldn't. And by the way, I understand why you play Kraft, because Kraft's a 7 out of 10 every game. He's not a 9 out of 10, but he's not a 4 out of 10. Now, my only hope if you play Dan Burn is that he's at least not playing in the Premier League. He's playing a Championship side, and he's not playing Mo Salah. So perhaps he would get away with doing a job, using his loaf a little bit at Sunderland. But he's always going to lack pace. And it's horrible seeing him turn around and try to chase somebody. It is really tough. But I don't want to have a go at him, because I think, Shaw and Botman have been two of the greatest players we had last season. And look, but I tell you what, do I recognise those guys down at Anfield, those two? No, I didn't. And
what I would do, I would be tempted to play Jamaal Lascelles, and I would be tempted to bring him in for Sven Botman and have Botman on the bench. And I know people watching and listening will be saying, "Oh, you're crazy," but I just think Jamaal Lascelles, he's played so well replacing Sven Botman during the time he's been out. Botman, as you rightly say, doesn't look fit. And yes, the only way you get match fit is by playing games. But this is a different kind of game altogether. This isn't a game where you play your players to get the numbers up, to get the fitness up. This is a game that you need to win. And look, I'm not saying if Eddie Howe loses, he'll be under pressure and he'll be out the door. That's not the case at all. But you don't want to lose this game.
It's a death or glory game. It's a death or glory game. And it's the last competition that we can win this season. If you lose, now heaven forbid, but if you lost somehow, you lost to Sunderland, and then you don't beat Man City and Aston Villa, then you're out of all competitions bar the Premier League, and you've trailed off. We're 9th now. If we lose to Man City and Aston Villa, and that's a distinct possibility. I'm not suggesting it's going to happen, but it's a distinct possibility. Now, if that happens, where's our season? So and then, this is the one we've got to, first things first, we've got to get through the FA Cup.
And then if you do lose this game, John, those defeats to Villa and Aston Villa, to Man City and Aston Villa, as much as some people would expect it anyway, they sting a little bit more because you've got the stench of the Derby defeat right there in your nostrils. So
if anybody doesn't realise that, be it Eddie Howe, be it Bruno, be it Isaac, any of the new lads or the foreign lads, if they don't realise it, by Jove, and heaven forbid they ever find out, but let them see what Newcastle as a city centre is like once we've lost the derby match.
So we'll continue with the starting 11. Like I say, my starting 11 if Trippier's not fit would be Livramento, Schär, Lascelles, and Kraft, Schär, Lascelles, and Livramento on the left. And what I think will happen, I think we'll try everything to get Trippier back. I think it'll be Trippier, Schär, Botman, and Dan Burn. In the midfield, I think it'll be Miley, Bruno, and Longstaff. I'd be tempted personally to take Longstaff out, but again, I think Eddie Howe will be relying on a boost because he's a local lad and this is the game he's always wanted to play. Sentimentality hasn't served Eddie Howe too well of late. Again, I'm not sure if this is the game where you rely on sentimentality, but I can see maybe the reasoning for it to a degree. I can't see him changing the midfield three, though, John, despite them against Liverpool giving the ball away at every opportunity, despite the fact it is their main weakness because they can't handle a counter-attack. They're awful in the transition. But I guess people would say, well, what options have you got? Do you bring Longstaff in?
The
Leave one of
option,
them out?
by the way, I think you're right. Picking Eddie Howe's side, I think the back four that you said would be Eddie Howe's back four, and the mid three, which you've just said of Longstaff, Miley, and Bruno, will be Eddie's three. One thing I am so worried about the midfield is a sweeping generalisation, not just for the Sunderland match. You always get the feeling you might just get away with something in the Sunderland match because the opposition isn't Champions League or top of the Premier League like Liverpool or like Man City's going to be or like Aston Villa at home will be. It's not that level. Whatever Sunderland may say and whatever the fans may say, the brutal truth is that Sunderland aren't at that level. If there were, there would be a division up and doing it. So that you might get away with people that have been playing indifferently, being able to find some sort of form against Sunderland. But I mean, if this was a Premier League game, I would only be creating a problem up front. But we are so... People just drive open bushes through our midfield that I would be tempted to put Joe Linton in there just to give us some physicality in the midfield. I know we've then got a problem. What do we do with the front three? And does that mean Almiron's got to come back to go with Gordon and Isak or what? So, you know, you plug one hole and you create a hole somewhere else. And I don't think that will happen. I think he'll play the normal three, will Eddie. But if I was playing Man City, I would be wondering about playing Joe Linton in the middle of the park to give us some sort of presence. Because I tell you what, we are like confetti in the breeze. In the midfield, you know, when you get confetti at a wedding and you throw it all up in the air and it just goes anyway. That's our midfield at the moment.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I think one of the things that concerns me more than anything is that when you look at that midfield three, the Longstaff, Bruno and Miley, I genuinely think from an Eddie Howe point of view, the one who is most at risk of dropping out is Lewis Miley. Now, in my view, Lewis Miley has been the best of all three of them for the last month, 6 weeks. And I wouldn't be dropping him out for love and the money. But I do think there's a strong possibility that if a change comes in, it will be Joe Linton for Lewis Miley and Miley drops to the bench, which I think would be the wrong decision because over the last few weeks, the only man in that midfield, the only boy, should I say, with all due respect to Lewis Miley, because that's what he is. He's a boy at the moment. With composure, is him. A 17-year-old lad. He's been the best midfielder Newcastle have had over the last few weeks.
I think that's
composure on the ball. But I do think he's at risk.
I take that, Andrew. The worry is, of course, and I've seen it over the years, and we've had all the whiz kids at Newcastle from Gaza and Neil MacDonald, who was coming at 16, and Paul Ferris, who come in at 16, and I saw all these players play. And the trouble is that if only Miley could have come in at his age now, because a year ago it's getting to be nonsense, because a year ago he was even more of a boy. But if he could have come into a top four side, what a player like we were last season, what a player he would look. The trouble is when you come into this sort of side, you either A, pick up bad habits temporarily, or B, the people around you not only don't help you, but they don't even keep their shape or keep their position, and you start looking not the player you really are. I mean, defensively, Miley's not a defensive player. But people have run off him a couple of times defensively because he's a boy, for goodness sake. He's learned. Going that way, going forward, he is absolutely magnificent. A couple of players have taken advantage of his naivety in youth and run off his shoulder into space, and he's let players go. By the way, he's hardly the only one that does that. We do that completely in the middle of the field. I mean, Bruno, the superstar. And by the way, it's just a little thought, mate, but Bruno, we love you. You don't have to play the hero every week. You don't have to pull forward. You don't have to lash over to the crowd after a tackle and do your He-Man stuff, on the spot. We love you. We know you care. Keep your discipline. Keep the game, and don't want to be Superman with a cape on every week. Just get the job done.
That is one thing that worries me about Saturday, John, is that I got a strong suspicion it's not going to end 11v11. And if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I'll be putting a few quid on Bruno to get sent off, because I think you watch him and you're right. He always wants to be involved. He's passionate and you love it. You love to see him whipping up the crowd and all that. But he's getting frustrated as games go on. He's getting more and more frustrated. He's
Yes, he
kicking
is.
out and in
Yes,
that
he is.
scenario, that derby, the fierce rivalry, the atmosphere that's going to be there, he's going to be pumped. And if Newcastle are losing, if Newcastle are playing particularly badly, which we hope they won't be, you could see him getting frustrated a lot earlier on. And if I'm Michael Beal, if I'm honest, I'd be in the ear of, I couldn't tell you which midfielder would be up against him, but I'd be in the ear of one of his midfielders and saying, right, get inside the head of Bruno, because he's a quality player, but he's got a short fuse. That's where I'd be targeted. And that does concern me a little bit, because you need to channel that passion and that aggression. And we haven't seen of late someone going over and just saying, Bruno, as you say, John, just calm it down slightly. You're going to get yourself sent off, lad. You're going to pick up a needless booking. You're going to get sent off. We need to see that leadership from other people going over to a world-class player and just saying, park it, because we need you on the pitch. We need you focused.
He's a walking potential red card. There's absolutely no question. But also, when he loses it like that, he's less of the player than he really is. That goes, and the more you see, this is what I was saying about Lewis Miley. When you're getting a side that's lost 7 out of 8, Lewis Miley looks round. People aren't giving him this up. I would love to have seen him in the side when we were 4th top. The age is now if I could transfer him back into that side where the players around him were doing the job, where Longstaff was covering things, was covering Bruno when he went up, etc. You know what we've got now? We've got, and I'm sorry to say it, we've got 3 ill-disciplined midfielders. They go anyway. They just go anyway. Has somebody sat them down and talked shape to them? Talked discipline to them. If Bruno's a 6, I tell you what, you're going to play 6. I'm going to put chains on you in the minute. You can't go forward because you're playing 6. Or Longstaff plays 6 and Bruno goes forward. By the way, you know why we've got this trouble? Because we didn't buy a 6. We're supposed to buy a 6 so that Bruno could get on his bike and be what he wants to be. Tonali's not a 6, by the way. A lot of people presumed that he was when we bought him, so that it released Bruno. Tonali, everybody we've got, you look at them, Willock, Joe Linton, Tonali, Miley, Longstaff, Bruno, there's not a 6 there. So who does the defensive duty in midfield? And we'll pass on, we'll pass the buck on. Oh, it's Bruno, but should it be there? Be Longstaff, and it's certainly not going to be Lewis Miley. So there's a real problem there. And by the way, can I just point out, this is January. We can do something about it. This is not for Saturday's cup tie, but we can do something about it. This is January if we want to do something about it.
If FFP allows as well, is the other thing. But do you think, John, Forest managed to exploit it, Luton managed to exploit it, Liverpool managed to exploit it? Do you fear Sunderland are going to exploit it?
Well,
midfield?
There's 2 sides there, and I want to give utmost respect, but I also want to be truthful. There's 2 sides there called Forest and Luton that by Premier League sides are below average, and they exploited it. So what's to say that Sunderland is slightly better than average Championship side at home with a huge crowd behind them? A lot of bonuses to be had if Sunderland win this, a lot of kudos, a lot of ticks for a new manager, for them, a lot of confidence for them trying to get into the playoffs. It can hand them an awful lot. And yes, it is distinctly possible. Now, we got away without a 6 last season, but we had a different mentality. Bruno was all over the park, and we had a discipline. If Bruno went Longstaff sat. If Longstaff went, Bruno sat. They worked in a tandem like that. So there was always a player covering that defensive in front of the back four. We don't do that now. No, neither of those guys do that now. What they did then, Bruno went. Longstaff immediately dropped into where Bruno used to be, or the other way on. If Longstaff goes, we don't do that anymore. If Bruno goes, Longstaff's up there, and by the way, they're both getting overtaken by Shaw.
Yeah, no, there is an issue with that, and I agree. I don't understand why no one sat down and just explained to them how they should be playing, at least until they get a new number 6. And it does worry us that Sunderland may exploit it because of our Michael Beal. That's what I've been looking at over the last few days. That's where I'll be targeting. And I spoke to my colleague James Hunter, who covers Sunderland. We've done the view from the opposition a few days earlier this week. That's already out on the podcast channel, so make sure you do have a listen. And he said the one thing Sunderland are really good at of late is the research. You know, he actually said the effort they put into researching the opposition is the best it's been, he feels, in his time then. He's been there since 1999. So that shows you how much work is going on behind the scenes at Sunderland. But on Michael Beal, John, obviously he's new into the job, only been in there a few weeks. He's also come into a situation, as James explained on the View from the Opposition episode, where it wasn't a bad situation. It wasn't a firefighter job. You know, things were happy. You know, Mowbray's moved on, not because he was doing badly, just because they wanted a bit of change for whatever reason. So he's not coming in and had to fight fires. I guess that's obviously a big plus, because if you were coming in and you're brand new to the job and you're having to sort out loads of issues, and then you've got this big fixture right on you within 3 weeks of taking the role, it's slightly different. It's slightly more daunting. But if things are they're quite rosy, you'll be looking forward to this fixture a lot more than you would be otherwise.
I felt very sorry for Tony Mowbray, who I know quite well from the old days when he was a player at Middlesbrough. And I feel sorry for him because at championship level, he's a very good manager. And he works very, very well with young players. He had a lot to do with Adam Armstrong's development in the championship into a goal-scoring championship player. And Adam is that. He's proved that at Southampton now. It's a different kettle of fish in the Premier League, but in the championship. And Mowbray is terrific with young players. And that made him the perfect manager for Sunderland because they're a bunch of young players. But the trouble is that Mowbray, like any manager, reaches an impasse and he wants to win promotion. And quite rightly, and he wants that on his personal CV. So he's pushing the board to say, we've got a bunch of terrific kids, but we need 3 senior players to go in there with a little clever nous and just be the icing on the cake, and we get promotion. Sunderland aren't interested in senior players. They're too old. They're interested in kids brought in at a certain price and sold on at a bigger price. And believe you me, Jack Clarke will go at some stage. There's no question about it. I don't think it'll be in January because it's not a window, but it'll be next summer unless Sunderland went up into the Premier League. I think Jack Clarke will go. And I feel sorry for Mowbray because he was doing a good job, well liked by the fans, and all he suffered from was ambition. Well, isn't that what you're supposed to have? So I do feel sorry for him. But you're right, the new managers come into a situation where there isn't trouble and strife. A lot of managers come into a new club and you're firefighting from the first day you arrive here. You know, it sounds peculiar, Andrew, but there's more pressure on Eddie Howe in this game than there is on Beal, because Eddie Howe's on the bad run. Beal isn't. Newcastle's on the bad run. Sunderland aren't. Newcastle, if Sunderland lost this, it wouldn't be the end of the world. They would be disappointed. The fans would be sickened, etc., etc. But they would just say, let's get promoted. Let's get into the playoffs. Let's concentrate. The FA Cup isn't our competition. We want to beat Newcastle, but the FA Cup isn't our competition. Newcastle haven't got that. Newcastle lose to Sunderland, the world temporarily falls apart. So there's more pressure on Eddie Howe and there's more pressure on Newcastle than there is on the new Sunderland manager and Sunderland.
Yeah, I mean, James did say it wouldn't be a defining result if Newcastle beat Sunderland. It wouldn't be defining
No,
for Michael Beal. Michael Beal, you get the sense that Sunderland are kind of laying the groundwork, with the things they're saying, and you speak to fans as well. They're not optimistic of a win, and it always comes back to Newcastle being a Champions League side. And Michael Beal, in his press conference, said it's a great time, it's a great game to be involved in. It's a great game that captivates the Northeast. We need to be at our best as we arrive in the game. It's intriguing going up against the Champions League team. So there we go again, dropping in the Champions League team. And, they're playing up, they're lapping up this underdog badge that they've got going into this game, aren't they?
Well, yeah, and so they should. I mean, I can't blame them for that. I mean, I'm out and out Newcastle United man, but I mean that's the way to approach it. And I mean, I've done a lot of that in the league. I remember going with in the FA Cup. I remember going as a non-league side with Gateshead to Halifax Town, who were managed by Paul Bracewell, ex-Newcastle and ex-Sunderland, in the FA Cup, and I was doing exactly the same. I was talking to our lads, well, it's nice for part-timers to be playing against full-timers. It's nice for non-league to be playing against a league side, pulling up the difference. And we won. We beat them and knocked them out 2-0. So it is what Sunderland will be doing, and it's quite right. But our man, and I'm sure Eddie Howe should be saying, excuse me, there's a sea of a difference here. The sea of a difference is they're playing the Championship and we've been playing in the Champions League. You should give them the 4 results I've just given to you. Manchester United away, Chelsea in the Carabao Cup, AC Milan and PSG in the Champions League. 3 draws and a win. And by the way, either of those results will do on Saturday. A draw or a win for Newcastle. And he should be saying, look, that's what we've done. Never mind last season. Everybody's saying what a great side we were last season, and this season we're not. Their 4-way results, forget about the Premier League away results, which are hopeless. We're not playing a Premier League side. There are 4 results this season. And are those 4 teams better than Sunderland? And even though Chelsea and Manchester United aren't the Chelsea and Manchester United of old, you would still say they're better than Sunderland. And you would certainly say AC Milan and Paris Saint-Germain are. So there you go. That's what our lot should be saying, and their lot will be saying, we're playing a Champions League side. This is lovely, but there's no shame if we have another defeat.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been talking about the message from the players, the Geordie players to the rest of the squad, but we haven't yet spoken about Eddie Howe. Obviously, he's not had an experience, to my knowledge, of a proper derby. Obviously, has an experience.
You don't get a lot of them at Bournemouth. You do, but you're playing Southampton or something, and I would suggest not quite the passion of this game.
So how easy is it for him, who's not experienced a derby? And all derbies are different. Of course, Michael Beal has been in the Old Firm, which is a ferocious derby, but each derby is different. What you get at an Old Firm is not what you get in the Time Weird derby. Each has their own merit. But that experience in the Old Firm will lend Michael Beal somewhat to understanding the situation, maybe slightly better, some would argue. Would you subscribe to that notion? Or do you think Eddie Howe will be well aware of what this means and how important it is?
He better be, and I'm certain he is. And, if you go to Wembley in the Carabao Cup or you play, okay, we lost that one, but talk about the semi-final, which we won. If you go away to grounds like Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, they're pretty tough. They've got good atmospheres. It ain't that much different. The result is to the fans, but the atmosphere isn't. And his mind's concentrated. I mean, Eddie Howe does his homework. He's lost 7 games out the last 8. He won't go lighthearted into this because and he's not a fool. And he always talks about blocking out the media and blocking out and not watching the news or the telly and not this and not that and not the other. You don't think he doesn't know what defeat at Sunderland would do to him personally, as well as the club? And I'm not suggesting for 1 second that he would get the bullet on Saturday night. I'm not being silly, but it would have to him no favours, would it? If you forget what we all think, it would have to do him no favours. By the way, it would do us no favours if we are sitting Saturday night and we've just been knocked out the cup for the third successive year by a team from a lower division, and that team just happens to be Sunderland.
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't. And I mean, both teams have got shocking records of late in the FA Cup. Just to add that. But you're right. And look, Eddie Howe, every time he speaks, he seems to get it. He seems to understand. I'm no doubting that he's well aware of the seriousness and the importance of picking up a victory on Saturday. He will want to win. It'll start that momentum, hopefully, for the rest of the season, which goodness knows Newcastle United need. It'll stop the rot that they're in currently with their Premier League form, hopefully. So massive game. And I'm sure he's done his research and is well aware of what it means to the fans and to those players who have lived it and breathed it since they were little ones as well. John, just briefly before we get your prediction of how it's going to go, the atmosphere is going to be electric, isn't it? Newcastle United fans been bussed along from about 8:30, so they're going to have a long wait until the kickoff, but they've got additional seats. Sunderland fans not happy, and you can understand why, because some of them have been removed from their seats, which they hold through their season tickets, which if it was the other way around, I'm sure Newcastle fans would be raging at that as well. But it's, the increased amount of visiting fans just takes it up a level, doesn't it? And it's going to be a boisterous atmosphere come 12:45.
Well, I mean, it's March 2016 since we last had a time where derby atmosphere. That is how long ago, and we've missed it. And yes, I agree. The previous 9 were unbelievable. Like 6 defeats and 3 draws, unbelievable from a Geordie's point of view. But I've got a lot of memories of derbies, and they are extra special. We've wanted them back, and I welcome them back. I would like us to have been in better shape. There's absolutely no question about that, because, as I say, field your best team. But when I see the team sheet, Andrew, I will not be convinced by all the names being on there, because I've just run through with you earlier in this podcast all the guys who are big names who aren't performing anything like they should. So there's that sort of problem. And another problem we haven't mentioned that I would just like to mention in passing is Callum Wilson.
I didn't want to bring the mood down further, John.
Well, and this wasn't to sort of get the press because he wasn't there. It's just to say I've loved Callum. He's been an England international. I once said about, I don't know, 9 or 10 months ago, that if he stayed completely fit all the time, he could become a number 9 legend on ability. But I tell you what, I'm sick of waiting, and I'm waiting no more. This guy cannot hold a meaningful shirt at Newcastle in the future, whether it's the second half of this season or next season. He could stick around in the same way as Dummett is stuck around and Matt Ritchie stuck around, because he's loved by Howe, if he's willing to do that and be a number. But he can't be one of our 2 centre forwards, because he's not reliable enough fitness-wise. And by the way, when he come back after the last injury, he's never looked the same player yet. He was still getting up to speed, wasn't he? He was still getting up to speed when all of a sudden it's a cough. I mean, we don't have to see him get injured in a game. He'll get injured in training, and regularly. And quite frankly, we can't live on just Isak. We can get Isak's fine for Saturday, but we have got to get another. Both of us have been banging on about a number 9 anyway. And a third number 9 we were talking about. As far as I'm concerned, it's a second number 9 now.
Yeah, and we have been banging on it for a while, and I made the point just about 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, that you bring in a striker who can both rival Wilson and Isak. For now, you're not talking about a young striker. I took a few pelters for it, and look, I'm not sitting here glad that I can say I told you so, because when we say about Callum Wilson's fitness and we get frustrated about it, I'm devastated that he's not going to play on Saturday. Because for me, I would have started him against Sunderland. That's what I would have done if he was fit. I would have played him ahead of Isak. And when we criticize,
I wouldn't. But you might. I wouldn't, because I actually think Isak's got better feet, a better brain, and is quicker. But I rate Wilson as well. There's no doubt about that. But Isak, and bear in mind, Wilson's on the wrong side of 30 and Isaac's on the right side of 25. And I think Isaac, look at the goal he took. He's not playing well. He's not playing up to the standard he can. You could have added him to all the names I gave you before. But when you see him score that goal at Liverpool, another is quality. But we can't rely on him fitness-wise too much. We can rely on him and Wilson, but not too much. And so that was. But crikey me, if we go on what we need, Andrew, we need a 6. We need a centre forward. They want a right winger. You could put anybody along the back four and want somebody in there. You could say we need a goalkeeper until Dubravka played like that and still let 4 in, bless him. So there's an awful lot we could sign, but we won't in January sign them all. No.
Yeah. And I was just going to make the point that the kind of the criticism and analysis of Callum Wilson, his injuries, is done through frustration, because I think, as we both mentioned, both big fans, and we wish it was a totally different scenario, but sadly it isn't. Before I get your prediction, John, just sum up briefly what this fixture means to you.
Everything that is possible to me. From being a small boy, I've been Newcastle United obsessed, but the games, inevitably the game I've always looked forward to in a fixture list when we're both in the same division has been Sunderland, because of the games that mean more than anything else. And I've gone through, the great days where we've had super matches, like beating Sunderland 5 at St James's Park when Kevin Nolan scored a hat-trick and Steve Bruce was standing in front of me in the Sunderland dugout. I could almost tap him on the shoulder, and he was so decimated. And Beardsley scoring a hat-trick against Sunderland. So many wonderful, wonderful memories. I have had the other side of the coin, and I've watched Gabbiadini and Gates do us at St James's Park in a playoff div for promotion, where we lost 2-0. Agony. McNamee swinging on the crossbar at Walker Park when we were 3-1 down, and I was getting dogs abuse from the Sunderland fans just in front of me. And then in the 93rd minute, McNamee bullet header swung on the crossbar. 3-3. I was doing my report on the phone. All the Sunderland fans in front of me, dispirited, disappearing home. 2 fans left in the Sunderland paddock right in front of me, turned round, unzipped their coat, opened it like that, and had black and white shirts on, put the thumbs up to me. Great, Gibbo. Memories like that stay with you for all time. And that's what this match means. It's the biggest match on our calendar. Of course, we want Champions League and PSV nights. Of course, we want to go to cup finals. But Newcastle v Sunderland is something special, and we haven't had it for yonks. We've got it on Saturday, but you know what? It's only a great game when you win.
Certainly is. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the last time these two met in the FA Cup was 1956. So you would have been a young man, and in that team, interesting.
A young whippersnapper.
That's what I was saying.
And by the way, we lost. We were due to go back to Wembley because for the 4th time in 6 years, to win the cup for the 4th time in 6 years, and we went to Sunderland and we lost. But here's another little fact to throw at you with all the nonsense we're talking.
I think I know what you're going to say.
The season before, this is interesting. In the FA Cup, the season before, 1955, the last time Newcastle United won the FA Cup, they beat Manchester City in the final, which you probably remember from the record books, not from being there, I hasten to add. But what people forget is that year should have been a Newcastle v Sunderland FA Cup final at Wembley. Manchester City beat Sunderland 1-0 in the other semi-final when Newcastle beat York, or it would have been Newcastle v Sunderland at Wembley in an FA Cup final. Wouldn't that have been something?
That's not what I thought you were going to say. I had no idea that was the case, which is a fantastic little tale. I was just going to mention that Bob Stokoe was in that 56 side with Milburn, and then of
Yeah.
course went on to win the FA Cup with Sunderland, didn't he? So as
Bob,
manager, so
Bob Stokoe was in the Newcastle side that won the FA Cup at the beginning of the 50s, one of the three sides as well. He won the FA Cup with Newcastle, and then he won the FA Cup with Sunderland.
yeah, and I mean, I haven't got the numbers, but I suspect he's probably the only person to do that. Well, because Sunderland have only won it once up back in 73. My maths is right. So
They won it again in the 20s or whatever with Rich Carter and whatever. But yeah, I think he's probably the only guy he's certainly the only guy that's won it as a player with Newcastle and as a manager with Sunderland.
Yeah.
But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's just look to get the right result on Saturday. Now, you're going to want the prophecy, I presume?
I am. Go on. How's it going to go?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is that I think Newcastle United can win on Saturday. But what I'm convinced of is that, and this is the only thing that's important to me, is that Newcastle will get through and be in the fourth round. Whether that takes a replay after a draw at the Stadium of Light and we win the replay, or whether we win first time, if you push me, I'm going for winning first time. But I'm more convinced that we'll get through, and quite frankly, that's all that matters. If it takes a replay, would you settle for that now? I'd settle for that now.
I'd settle for a replay. I'd like Newcastle to win outright on the day and beat Sunderland in their own backyard down at the Stadium of Light. I am really, really nervous though, John. I'm never ever going to say Newcastle are going to get beat because I can't bring myself to do it. But I'm dreading Saturday. But fingers crossed they do get through. First time we don't want to replay. We don't want an added game to the schedule. Because
by the way, if in 89 minutes we're 1-0 down and we equalise, you'll want to replay, mate. Don't worry about it.
Well, yes, in that scenario. But if I could pick it, Newcastle win at a cancer at the Stadium of Light. Thank you, John, for providing the match preview ahead of Sunderland versus Newcastle in the FA Cup third round on Saturday, 12:45 kickoff. Head over to chroniclelive.co.uk for all the latest Newcastle news, including Eddie Howe's press conference on Friday. And, of course, live coverage of this game through our dedicated Matchday blog.